Good evening. Tonight I'm going to do a review of Chimay's Grande Reserve Ale. And so this is commonly known as the blue cap or blue label. There's a blue label, a red label, and a gold label. I got a little excited because I hadn't ever seen this packaging before, so I thought I had a type of Chimay that I hadn't tried before, but I did my internet research and realized it was just a really big bottle of the blue label. And so this is a Belgian dark strong ale, which is BJCP category 18E. So I'm going to open this bottle, and I should have opened it before I put the video on, just in case it was embarrassing, but we'll see how it works out. Hopefully I don't make a big mess on my carpet like I did the last time I poured a beer. Yikes. So I haven't done a Belgian in a little while, so this will be exciting for me, maybe for you. We'll see. So the Reserve Ale has 9% alcohol by volume, and I looked online and I didn't see information about the IBUs, which is kind of hard to come by. A lot of places don't publish it. So normally you would serve this in a, and I forget what they call the glass for beer. It has a funny name. But I'm serving it in a brandy snifter. So same shape, but a brandy snifter has a really, a more narrow mouth than a tulip, I think is what they call it. Then the glass would normally, it would have like a straight top, have the same shape, but rather than coming back to a smaller mouth, it would stay wide. And so that improves or channels the fragrance and other things like that. So while this is not necessarily the absolutely correct glass, it's in the spirit of. So aroma-wise, let's get into this. So Chimay is world-famous Trappist ales and is really exemplary for the Belgian style ales that are on the market. I think particularly in America, I don't know worldwide. So this has a really rich kind of yeastiness to it, and I think my first impression of Belgian ales was they all kind of taste the same. What's going on with that? And then I realized that it's the yeast that they use. It's particular yeast to Belgian ales, and it really imparts a lot of flavor to it, and that's what makes them so characteristic. So you can tell a Belgian ale when you have a taste of it is the yeast. So I can smell alcohol in this. It definitely smells alcoholic, but it also has kind of like a malty sweetness and a little bit of spiciness to it as well. So that yeastiness almost offers like a bread kind of aroma. And something like, and some maltiness that's kind of akin to like an American-style lager. So it has that kind of sweet corn smell, but this doesn't really smell like corn, but it kind of has that sweet aroma to it as well. So interesting, a lot going on there. So it's definitely a dark ale. You can see from your angle that it, has a brown tinge to it, but it's definitely dark. It poured with the head, and it has retained it. And so what we see a lot of times in Belgian ales is what's called lacing. So as I take a couple of drinks, you'll see some lacing of the bubbles accumulating on the glass as the beer goes down. And so that's also something that you look for when you're looking at a Belgian ale. And I think that that's attributed to yeast as well. Okay, so, oh, and it's also kind of hazy. I'm looking into the light here, and I can see, I can't really see through it. I just, so it's pretty opaque, has a little bit of a hazy look to it. And then when I'm looking, it definitely has carbonation. So I think it's going to be crisply carbonated. Wow. This is good. I know somebody who would really like this. Unfortunately, she's not here, so she doesn't get to drink this with me, but I might have to buy some Chimay. Okay. It tastes a lot like it smells. It has a lot of fruity sweetness in it. To me, I always, when people have this beer and they say, oh gosh, I really like it, and I say, that's interesting. To me, it really tastes like grape juice. And so this beer has that kind of quality to me. So I know, like, gosh, I can't even think of what they are. Spaten does it. It kind of has that, maybe like a Doppelbock, maybe. That's that kind of quality to it, I think. So kind of fruity, but this offers a little bit of spiciness to it. And then that definite Belgian yeast. Definitely a sweet beer. This particular style is supposed to be dry. It's actually described as dry, and I don't really get that kind of drying sensation, but if I were to think about how like a dry white wine tastes to me, it kind of has that characteristic. So I can see how people might describe it as dry. I think, so I'm reading here, and it says, finish is variable depending on interpretation. Authentic Trappist versions are moderately dry to dry, while Abbey versions can be medium dry to sweet. Low bitterness, and the alcohol provides some balance to the malt. And I think all of that is true for this particular beer. I think, when I was smelling it, it had an intense maltiness to it, but that's so balanced here. And then you get a little bit, I can see how it's dry. You get a little bit of that kind of, not even astringent, but drawing quality as the beer finishes. So it's really very nice. As far as mouthfeels, it's very carbonated. The beer itself is kind of light. I want to say it has like a medium body to it, but it's definitely carbonated. And to me, it feels a lot like when I drink champagne. I mean, my tummy is bubbly when I drink this. And so it's very interesting to me. I guess I like a heavier, I prefer, that's just what I happen to drink a lot, is a heavier mouthfeel beer. And so whenever I have something that's like tingly carbonated like this, I always find it surprising, especially when it's kind of bitey on the tongue. But I think, oh, I forgot, also, another thing that's interesting about this, at 9% alcohol, which is pretty high alcohol content for a beer, there's like a warming of alcohol, which is interesting because you kind of get that warming of alcohol and then the tingly carbonation all together, and it's a very enjoyable experience. So you get this wonderful light, soft fruitiness, and then like a deep roasty, caramelly malt flavor that just finishes in a really crisp, clean, dry, tingly kind of way. Very enjoyable beer, definitely. I can understand why people are so gaga about Chimay. So it's very complex, very interesting, lots going on. And then as a dark ale, I think, I really get that kind of, that complex roastiness with all that other stuff going on. It's really great, very drinkable. I like it a lot. As far as history for this particular style, most versions are unique in character, reflecting characteristics of the individual breweries. I feel like that's why you get some really hardcore followers of a particular style, or from a particular brewery. And so in this case, Chimay, people are like, Chimay, this is the amazing stuff. And that's one of their go-to beers. And then from comments, authentic Trappists versions tend to be drier. Belgians would say more digestible than Abbey versions, which can be rather sweet and full-bodied. Higher bitterness is allowed in Abbey-style beers with a higher final gravity. Barley wine-type beers, a Scaldish Bush La Trappe Quadruple, or the Weyerbacher Quad, and spiced Christmas type beers should be entered in the Belgian specialty ale category, which is 16E. Not in this particular category. So traditionally these are bottle conditioned, meaning re-fermented in the bottle, and that's why we see a little bit of haziness, because the yeast is in the bottle. And it's interesting, normally when you're doing a brew, you don't want to leave beer sitting on yeast too long. That can produce some off flavors. But in this particular style, with this particular yeast, this beer can actually be aged, like kept cellared for long periods of time, and will possibly even improve the flavor if it changes at all. And so it can sit on its yeast for a long time. So it's very interesting kind of how that yeast contributes to flavor, and then how it differs in other brew styles. If you were to leave, you know, like an IPA on its yeast for a really long time, you would have a totally different beer. But for Chimay, it works really well for this particular style, these Belgian dark strong ales. So I think that's interesting. So the ingredients includes Belgian yeast strains prone to production of higher alcohols, esters, which is that kind of fruitiness, and water can be soft to hard. And so water and yeast in this particular style of beer are very, very important. That's what really makes it taste like a Belgian ale. And so while this is actually brewed in, I'm assuming in Brussels, and I actually don't even see that that's the case. It says it's imported by, that really dictates a lot of the flavor. And so when people are trying to recreate those ales like craft brewers do here, they are changing their water specifically, using those yeast stains and then changing their water in order to kind of recapture that style of ale. So it's very interesting how technical beer can get. But overall, I think Chimay is an amazing beer. And I forget at this point, because it's been a while since I've tried the red and the blue, what the difference is between the two. I think that the red is less dry and that the blue is more dry generically. But now I'm inspired to go and do a tasting of the red cap. So watch for that. If you're a Chimay drinker, share with me down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't tried Chimay, I definitely recommend that you try Trappist ales. Belgian ales are just uniquely wonderful and so different from some of the things that we produce here in the U.S. And I love hearing from people who try new things, especially if it was inspired by watching these videos. So definitely share with me down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good night.